Hey guys, today is part two of cleaning up the shop, and where we started was cleaning this off and just getting us a space where we could put things to organize as we clean the other parts of the shop. But I still got this behind me that we're going to need to clean up, so we're going to start there, and then we're going to start moving that way towards the work table and getting all this stuff cleaned up. But let's get started. Got you guys over in the corner of the shop so you can kind of see what's going on. Yeah, we're going to start cleaning things up. First off, you might be wondering what this is. Well, when I recently made an epoxy riverbed with a walnut serving tray, I had some left over, and so I actually poured it on top of a plastic tote lid just so that it wouldn't be all sitting at the bottom of the cup and having to try to pry that out. And it just kind of made this little thing that, you know, it's kind of interesting how you can see as it gets close, goes away. But yeah, just made that. It's just going to go in the trash. I don't really know what I would do with that, but maybe in the future there's an idea in that in some way, but I don't know. We got these recently. This is a bunch of cone-shaped mesh paint strainers. As you know, I've recently obtained an HVLP spray gun. I'm hoping to get some good results out of that, and so I want to make sure we get nice and clean paint going through there. So I got to find a place to put these. This is my little work brush, or what is it called? A bench brush, 7-inch. It's only like $2.50 at Harbor Freight. So never skip out on Harbor Freight when you need the easy little cheap stuff that works fine. It's a great place to go. I got some wood offcuts of the walnut that from when I was making that board. I was going to do a very intricate side handle with these, but I ran out of time. Things weren't working out, so that's why they have these mitered cuts to them. But we'll find a use for these in the future. Also got this cedar here. We'll put that on the wood storage. It's way over there once I can get over to that area. Got some paint sticks. It's still a good one. We'll keep that. This has got a bunch of epoxy stuck to it when I was stirring it. Yep, to the trash with that. Anything else? Use sandpaper. Got some more randomly poured out epoxy there. Another stick I use for stirring epoxy. Put that in there. Need to find a place for that. Got this little Saker honing guide for the chisels, because I've, you know, for a long time I didn't really know how to sharpen chisels. This was a great little thing to get started with. I just slide it back and forth on this whetstone and give a decent, good edge to the chisels. And the chisels I use are just these cheap Buck Bros that I had gotten at Home Depot a while back. And while not the greatest quality, after taking some time to properly sharpen them and give them a good edge, they've been working fine. I do hope to eventually get a really nice set. I've heard good things about, I think they're called Veritas or something like that, but there's a good number of sets out there, and I hope to get one day. But for now, that's been cutting it pretty well. And then these are just little Harbor Freight wood, like gouges and carving tools and things like that. And this is just something I kind of slapped together to put those in. But let's see, glue sticks, pencil, anything else that's trash. I think that's it for now. Let's put that in the trash bag. Okay, this goes over there on the drill rack, so does that, so we'll put that on the work table for now. These go up there, but I can't get to that area yet, so put that aside. Another little thing I got from Harbor Freight, this is a handy little clamp. If you don't have any of these, they do work great for clamping on things that can be tapered, or depending on if you need to have different pressure at different points, they are really good for that. So, not expensive, work perfectly fine. Great deal at Harbor Freight. A little pack of pencils here. We're gonna stick that in there. I have one of those ox pencils that you can get at Lowe's. You know, it's good for, they got come a little holster and a sharpener in it, but I can't remember where I've placed it. So that is something I will have to find eventually. There's, that thing got tipped over at some point. I'm gonna put that there. I'll stick that sharpener with it. There we go. And I got a couple of these Milwaukee ink Zol pens. These things work awesome. And they're like, you know, 99 cents at Home Depot per one. So we'll stick those there for right now. Now this, some of you may be wondering, what's that about? I had seen another guy use straws to get wood glue out of, you know, 90-degree corners when making glue joints. And I've never gotten something proper to hold all these straws. The box I had eventually gave way, and so I had just taped a bunch of them together just for the time being. I'll usually just slide one out of the middle that I need, but they do work incredibly well to slide or to remove glue from a 90-degree corner as you are doing your glue ups. But Obviously I need to cinch that up, and maybe I'll just make a little wooden container or something that I can slide all these in and keep them in. But the cardboard box, something always gets on them and eventually it gives way. But yep, those are handy for that. So put these glue sticks in here. Got this little paintbrush. I'll set that there for now. Like I said, eventually we'll be building stuff to give a lot of these things a special place so they're not just taking up room here. But I haven't got to that yet, and we want a clean workshop first. This old hammer, put that those other tools. All right. In case you're wondering, yeah, this is one of those Miles Craft little joint mate dowel jigs that it works pretty well. You can either use this to butt up against whatever piece to align your holes for that, or if you flip it over, you got 5/16, 3/8, and a quarter. You can flip that over, and using those pegs, you can turn it sideways, and depending on which pegs you put it in between, if you slide it between here, you can use that hole and it will center. If you put it between here, you can center with that one, or you can put it between here and center with that one. So it's actually a handy little thing. I think it was like $15, and I just got some Wind brand dowels, just a nice big set of them. But they're very handy if you're decide not to use a biscuit. You know, you need something with a little more strength. Those work great. And of course, you know, who wouldn't love to have a nice Festool? Wow, I can't even think of the name of that tool now. But the Festool that can do basically tenon joinery and all that. Yeah, hopefully one day I'll have $1,500 laying around that I could just grab one of those. But got some poly satin. This is the Bear brand, and I have found it works pretty good. I actually like it. Finish is very similar to Varathane, and so I've been enjoying that and using that. Now here we have a whole bunch of sample paints. When me and my wife bought this house, we decided, you know, we had all kinds of ideas of trying to figure out what do we want for certain walls and other things. So we got all kinds of greens and grays, cool tones and dark tones, and just all kinds of stuff. But I don't really like to throw anything away. So when we flip furniture, I kept all these different samples from all the things that we did. And I found that they, you know, some of them, they get a little dry in there. But that's what the strainers are for. Throw a little water in there with it and strain it. And I can use it. It's usually just enough to cover a side table or something. But also sometimes I found that some of the colors are so similar, I can take two, if we used a good bit of the sample, mix them together, get a slightly new shade of green, but some of them come out, some of them are garbage. And if it's a terrible outcome from mixing the two, you can trash it, no real loss. These are just things we've already bought and paid for. So I'm trying to just use them up and get them off my counter. But yeah, let's see. With the rest of the wood, it's going to go on stack. These go over here. Got a lot of little attachments I need to build. But this also is a Harbor Freight planer, number 33 it says. It was cheap and it performed cheap. I will say this thing was rough out of the box. I spent some good time laying a flat piece of sandpaper and pulling the blade out and everything, and just doing my best to hone this. I actually used a little gravel or granite slab that I used to use when I did leather crafting, and so I knew that was nice and flat. Double-sided tape down, or adhered some sandpaper sheets to it, and just sat there and smooth this thing out, trying to get as flat as possible. And you could see the parts that were uneven, and as they flattened up, took that blade out, and that I put it in that Saker little sharpener guide that I got, worked it out. Still, even with all that work, while it's not the best, it got the job done. It in small cases where I need it. I do need to get some good jack planes, but unfortunately I didn't get to pick up any of the Stanleys that I see people pick, and the ones that are still out there on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, they're selling for so much, and I just don't have the money for that right now. So this gets it done when I need it to. I do have the Ryobi electric planer. It gets the job done on plenty of cases. But sometimes I just need to run something smooth real quick. This can get the job done. It's just a lot of work to get it there. So maybe in the future I'll get some decent planes. I would love to get more into the hand tools of woodworking. But for now, it gets the job done. We're just going to place that there for there. And let's see, grab my little blower. We'll blow this countertop off. there we go. Another little section for putting some stuff while we organize and get things moved, but one step at a time. So as you guys can see, getting things nice and cleaned up in here. Still got a lot that we're going to have to figure out to organize that. Maybe once we get the shelving or something put in here, we can do that. But then all that nice and organized. And I don't think I showed y'all the other day, but I do try to use as much space as I can to hang stuff that I know I grab commonly. Like right here when I'm doing lathe work, I got my calipers right there, you know. Got the brush to brush off the bench top easily. Things like that. You may be going, what's with the spatula? Well, those are actually great for spreading wood glue. And then when it dries, it peels right off. Just get them for like 50 cents at Dollar General or whatever. And yeah, so we still got a lot to tackle though. So onward, I think this will be next. Guys, next up, we got all this. So we're gonna find a place to be putting some of this stuff. And while this will probably feel going backwards a little bit, that I'm gonna take some of these tools and set them over there. Like I said, that's why we did that. So I get the stuff out of the way, get the other stuff that needs to go somewhere. And then when I can roll this table out of the way, I can put a lot of the tools where they go up on the walls. So it's kind of a back and forth process until we get where we need. But yeah, so let's see. This, give that a little quick brushing. It's been sitting up under the worktop. Can't speak English today. Been sitting up under the workspace. The counter's over here. Just collecting dust. Use this right here real quick. I'll probably cut the volume on this because probably gonna be loud as I do this on the mic. Yes, I do have my nice rolling air compressor right there, which is great for cleaning things up. But for now, I think we'll just set this back up under here. I don't really have anywhere to go with that. I don't really use that often. I might take it towards the house and put it in the other shed. Got some, this is that new Diablo ceramic blend. The lighting in here. The ceramic blend stuff. I really like their the net kind of stuff, because the amount that you can, if you hook it up to air collection or vacuum of some sort, really helps keep it clean and, you know, keeps it from wearing the paper out faster. But this ceramic stuff's been pretty good. I do like it when I am sanding down cured epoxy, things like that. And I mean, it lasts pretty good even with the wood. But the net stuff I do like. I just gave this a shot. It's been pretty good. A jug, I keep this. I don't have running water out here, so I usually keep this jug filled with just some water to, you know, when I'm doing certain glue cleanup or mixing a little bit with paint, things like that. I keep a jug just to have with me. Got to refill this. I'll rehang this up, put this out. I have used both Diablo blades and now I've started using these Milwaukee Sawzall blades. They're pretty good. I do like them. Come with this little case I got during a sale they had during Christmas time. So that's kind of handy when you just need something you can throw in the toolbox or, you know, whatever it is you might be doing. But comes with all kinds, and you can just refill it as you buy more. Like I said, I have a lot of Ryobi stuff. It's where I started. It was affordable, and it got me into woodworking like I wanted to be. But as I've been going now, I'm really getting into Milwaukee. And they both come from TTI, the mother company. But I like them a lot. This is all my camera stuff. I did this like 10 years ago, but it still shoots really well. The only problem is with today, most people being on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, you know, while you could shoot vertical, trying to do the vertical and upload it, and I'm just not there yet. I prefer just sticking to my phone right now. But whenever I start maybe really getting a YouTube together, I'll probably start using this until I can upgrade to something else. But it's been working fine. But camera is the way I'm going for right now. Oops, that's not the one. Where is it? There it is. I want to protect that lens, so we're going to get that on there. But I guess I'll be taking this inside until I figure out how or where or what I want to use it for. Alright, this is almost out. This is just that Howard cutting board oil. Works perfectly fine. I've seen where people just get the big jugs of mineral oil instead of this, but couldn't find any in my local city at the time. So I've just been using this where I need it. But maybe now it's about time to start ordering a big bottle of the stuff, because I use it a lot. It does great. That up there, hang that right there for now. Let's see if we can do this. You might be looking at this and noticing that and go, man, that looks awfully rough. What happened there? Actually, I'll show you. This used to be a part of that. I had tried my best to make it to where I could maximize my space. Get that off of there. Where I could maximize my space with this. I had this slid a little bit more that way. Just have a little extra table, you know, something to support when I'm cross-cutting, things like that. And I made it where it was just high enough that these bars could slide under. It got to where I think just over time, temperature changes and stuff, it got to where it was causing too much of an issue and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I literally took my Sawzall and hacked this thing off because I thought I could do something smarter than everybody else because I could make it work. This wasn't worth it. So now I just cut it off so I can slide this over a little bit and just use it how I need it. Quit fooling with all that. Works out better. Because the thing is, when you do try to cross cut, even though since I built it a little bit taller for that to slide under, the issue is when you do cross cut something, this is a little bit higher than that table, causing an issue of the board being slightly canted, and that won't give you the square edges you need when you need to make a nice 90-degree cut. So I had to go. All right, next up, maybe looking at this and going, what's that about? This is just the miter gauge that came with it. Just drilled into it to have something to help me slide. However, it is time for me to invest in something a little bit better, you know, Incra or whatever I decide. Maybe I'll get one of those Vevor ones. I hear a lot of people say that for the price, it can't be beat. It's got stops and all that. But the issue with this, you can hear that, while it is very minimal, when you're when you're cross-cutting something kind of wide, eventually that cut gets off a little bit, comes out square. So this is good for short pieces like, you know, trim and stuff. It works fine for that, and I'll usually, when I'm using it, push against one side so that it stays squared the way I want it and just slide it through. So it works fine for that, but this is just temporary until I get something a lot nicer. I'll just stick that up under here for now. Put that here. Let's see. Put that here. Whoops. This bucket I've been using for trash, things I got to take over to my little, you know, big trash can. Let's get these out of the way. This goes up on the wall with the others. Put that there. I'll go ahead and make this a new trash bag. Well, we're just using that for trash anyway, so I'll put that in there. And this goes that. These go the pencils. This goes over here. It goes over the pencils. Collect all this wood here. Those are shims that are still good. That over there as we work our way over this and that. That goes the Saker. Put this in the drawer. All these scrap. All scraps of walnut, but all could still be used for something. That'll be in the future. I'll show you the kind of things that you can do with this. Some people would look at this and go, well, what am I going to do with that skinny little piece? Well, if I'm making a little catch-all tray of walnut with a nice leather lining to help dampen the blow of the keys and things falling in there, this makes a perfectly fine, good side rail, especially if it's more rectangular. I could possibly get two end caps out of this, right? So, and I know that's how most woodworkers are. We don't throw away wood that we think could have a future being used for something. So we'll hang on to that. Put that over there. Put these over there. Goodness. All right. This, just one of those little, there's that pick. I was looking for that. Let's set that there for now. More trash. These are automotive picks that I believe I got at Harbor Freight, or maybe it was Harbor Freight, or maybe Home Depot. I can't remember. But never know when you might need a good little pick to do whatever. There are times that this makes a great thing to work little pieces of wood out that you might fill with epoxy or anything, because you know it's not going to stay, and useful for other things as well. Something's loose in here. Wow. Well, I'll pick that up later. I think that goes with that one. Trash. Yeah, you can probably see I got a lot of Ryobi bit sets. They do fine, you know. They wear out a little faster than others, but to get a complete set like this at a really good price, they work fine. I actually don't go through bits that often, being a woodworker. In construction, I could understand the elitism of going into, you know, well, you only get DeWalt, you only get Milwaukee, you only get XYZ, you know, Weehaw and Bosch. Now I get that, but in woodworking, you don't really chew through that many. These have been fine. I've recently bought a Milwaukee set that I keep in my handyman rolling toolbox, and those have been great. I really like those. So I mean, moving forward, yeah, I'll be probably buying Milwaukee sets. Here, this is what I'll, you know, get out to put the mineral oil in, and I'll also sometimes, if I'm making a small epoxy board, drop them down in here, and I'll put some leveling feet and all that to make sure it's level. But in case the epoxy goes through, until I get a nice mold of some sort that I can make or buy, this is what I do to jerry rig something together so that if the epoxy was to rush out, leak, or anything, it's all contained in here. won't ruin anything in the shop. This is from another pour, like I talked about earlier, that other disc, where if I have some left over, I just like to pour it out on top of here. You can do that, break it free. And you got this. Like I said, I feel like there's some way I could use this. Maybe artistically or something for whatever, but I don't really know what to use it for yet. So right now, they just go in the trash. But trash. Got some of these for laying down lines, things like that. They work good for all kinds of stuff. This, we'll just put that there for now. So we put somewhere to put those. Seems that mineral oil bottle might be leaking a little bit. That, man, I keep forgetting there's bits are in there. All right, so finally got all that cleared away. Now we can find a home for our tools there on that back wall as I move this up. Here we have this. This is where I store my drills. Now, I used to keep, there's like 5 things in here. Get this out real quick. But 2 of the things I used to keep in here was a 1/2" impact wrench and a 3/8. But I don't really use them in here for anything like that. So I decided to just go put them in the other shed where I keep all my mechanics tools. But yeah, so I keep all these here. You know, don't have anywhere to fit that in there, but this has been handy in a lot of pinches. So I just keep that up there for now. I'm gonna probably lay that sideways, honestly. Get this out of the way. Like I said, if I remember right, that's the only HP tool I have. And it's been great. It's not the most powerful thing in the world, but when you're just needing to get something at a 90-degree angle, it works great for that. You know, you got paddles where you can get it up here if your hand's up here and you're trying to squeeze it in, or if you're down here. There you go. If you're down here, it works as well for that. So I got that there. This is something I got, I think, off of Amazon, but it's when you need to make little trim pieces. You can lock this in on the track of your table saw. And if any of you watched Outlaw, or what's it called, 713 Woodworks, the guy Matt Outlaw, he's the guy that I saw this from. It's got double bearings. He may have had a different version, but this is the one I got for a good price. Double bearings so that you can run a piece of trim and you keep sliding your fence towards it so that you get an accurate cut on the other side of the blade every time. It's great for little pieces like that. So I think this was literally like 15 bucks. But a great little tool. It's definitely worth it. And along with that, and like I said, when I made a lot of this stuff, I hadn't done a whole lot of woodworking outside of what I had done in construction with my grandfather and what little things I did out in my driveway that I could do over time. But as I had built up my collection and got space and stuff, I did these French cleat walls, these little holders, and not all of them are perfectly square and things like that, but I was just trying to do my best to be creative. Like, I'll keep my blades with that, and so that holds perfectly fine, and you know, this and that and everything. And some of these were built for other things, but I've repurposed them. Like, I don't think I originally built this for this radio, but it just became a perfect little place that I could move around and hold it. And you know, in the future, if I get rid of this, I might use it for something else. But later in the future, we'll get a little bit more money and I can get some nicer sanded plywood and things like this. All this that I actually used to make it, got an incredible deal at Home Depot where somebody had a whole bunch of cutoffs of this really nice sanded plywood, and they wanted $100 for all of it. Built all these things out of it, all the French cleat, all of it came from that. So it was a great deal, and maybe I'll find another deal like that, or in the future, if I have a little bit more money, I would love to redo a lot of this. It was a learning experience, and it works for now, but I would love to continue to hone my craft, get better at it, and, you know, repurpose what I can, but make some new stuff. Since now that those 2 impact wrenches aren't here anymore, we will just fill them with all the bits. Look at that, perfect fit. I know a lot of guys build them where they can, you know, kind of have these like things they hang their drills with, but I just built it this way for whatever reason. It works fine. But yeah, this was the first brushless tool. This is before they were calling them like the HPs and stuff, but this was the first brushless tool, and it's a hammer drill. Still works great. You know, like I said, I haven't had my stuff break down on me. I know people always, you know, poo-poo on Ryobi, and I get it. Maybe if you're in a professional construction setting, makes sense. You know, I've heard people that do fine with them in the construction setting, but I also know people like to save time. They say time is money, so they want stuff that's faster. So you watch these guys that will test all the drills together, like, you know, Ryobi versus Rigid, and DeWalt, and Milwaukee, and Bosch, and Flex, and all that stuff, and it's always, you know, Flex, Bosch, or Flex, DeWalt, and Milwaukee are at the top of the runners. And I get that. But in a lot of cases, when you might not be able to afford some of those levels, these drills can still often get a lot of things done. They just take longer. you know, and if they take longer, they're wearing your batteries down faster, all of that. So I get it. But if you're not in construction and you just need an affordable ability to start woodworking or a home brand, you know, if you're just home DIY, these tools often get it done. Like, yeah, you might struggle to really drive like a 12-inch Spax into, you know, a foot deep of lumber. I get that. But that's not your average home DIY. And if you need to get through that and you're doing that on the regular, absolutely get the other stuff. But the Ryobi has gotten me through everything I've needed it to do so far. But as I've gotten to use more Milwaukee tools and things like that, I really like it. And the further I get into my DIY and building stuff, I'm wanting to build bigger and better things, and I'm wanting to go beyond what I'm doing. So Milwaukee seems like a great place to go. Or DeWalt. I have plenty of DeWalt stuff too, but I really like the Milwaukee stuff. So that's what I've been kind of leaning my stuff towards. You'll see some of the stuff get swapped out with Milwaukee over time. But yeah, I actually, you know, think Ryobi's fine on a lot of cases. And I know people will throw hate comments on here about that, but it's gotten me through everything I needed to do. And, you know, if that's all you can afford and it works, it's great. I mean, that one battery platform that works in everything works great. I have their stick vacuum and their little hand vacuum inside. My wife likes them. And so when she needs a battery, I just grab one out of the shop and away she goes. But yeah, it's done good for me. It's worked for me. The only reason I'm changing is, I don't know. I've just liked what I've used, but this has been fine. I just kind of want to upgrade some things and get a lot of that Milwaukee fuel stuff. I've really liked it for the handyman work that I've done. And yeah, just want to go to red, I guess. All right, as we continue to move this way in the shop, here's another one of these carts that I've built with my Skill router table. It's been working great. I do plan to eventually get one of those nice drop-ins and build a custom table, but I don't have the room for something like that right now. So this works for what I can do. And I hope in the future I build a bigger shop. And at that point, I will build a nicer one. But this, I think I said in a previous video, I got this plus the Skill router that's up under there, total of 150 bucks. And it's been completely worth it. It has worked great. There's bit storage in here. I haven't used it yet. In fact, I think I put these doors on wrong because they open from over here. So at some point, I'll probably swap those over. But yeah, this thing has worked great and I like it. Now, as far as why do I have these, I may have said that in another video as well. I used to have one of these little heat buddies when it was really cold here. There's times here in Georgia, in Albany, that it gets under 20 degrees. And because it's so humid around here, that feels really cold. So I would use that, but it wasn't cutting the job. I basically had to set it at my feet wherever I was working and let the hot air flow up towards me to try to keep me warm, but just wasn't cutting it. So these are not recyclable or reusable. You know, it seems like, shouldn't I be able to refill these? You know, in there, shouldn't I be able to do that? But it actually says don't do that. If you read the danger warnings and all that, you don't do that. So I used them up, but I got tired of 10 bucks for 2 of these, and they would last 4 hours. Maybe, you know, if you were on full blast trying to stay warm. So that wasn't cutting anymore. So like I said, I have gotten this Vevor diesel heater. So there will be a video of me installing that, probably somewhere up here, cutting a hole in the wall, running the little exhaust out of it, and that way the bad fumes go out, warm air stays in. But we're in March. It's already kind of warming up around here. We're hitting one more freeze, it seems. So it's kind of cool right now. But once that's gone, you know, winter doesn't stick around here for very long. So we're about to go back into our 9 months of summer of Albany, Georgia. And yeah, we'll have a level of video just so we have that when it does get cold. But yeah, for, you know, if it runs, from what I've seen on a lower setting, you can keep this place running for 16 hours on a gallon of diesel. And if a gallon of diesel is only, I think right now it's about $4 or $4.50, something like that. That's a lot cheaper and a lot longer run time than $10 for 2 of those cans. So I'm chunking those, done with that. But we'll get this thing installed at some point on another video. All right, guys, so let's get this cleaned up. Got another clamp sitting there, and those clamps, you might have noticed I got a couple right here. That's been my clamp storage for now. I just join them to that 2x4 and I just grab one off when I need it. There's a few more actually I have hanging from up there because they're so long. I didn't want that stretching across, and eventually I want to utilize that space, you know. I would love to insulate this shop. I don't have the money to do that. And as of right now, it makes for decent shelving options if I need it, as I just use the window unit to cool this place or the Vivor diesel heater to heat it. To give you guys an example, let you look over here. I've just made one quick one that I just put some stains in. So probably plan to make more of those and use those for tool storage and other things. But this cart has sometimes been used as a little bit of a catch-all. I got the brakes on. Take the brakes off of these wheels. We'll slide it this way. Another Bessie F-clamp, you know, always handy. And I will say, while everyone loves a good squeeze clamp, that it's easy to use those, and usually you can get enough pressure out of them, and that's all you really need. I know some guys put an absolute death grip on their clamps when they're doing glue ups, and in some cases I see where that's useful, but I often find just enough pressure to hold it is all you really need. But the F clamps definitely hold better if you need that pressure to hold it in place. But a lot of times if you cut all your stuff right, get it all aligned right, and you put enough pressure in the glue up, they're plenty. I got a lot of Harbor Freight ones that when I got them, I was like, man, I really don't know if these are going to work. They worked fine. Would I love to have a lot of Jorgensen or whatever like clamps? Yeah, absolutely. Jet or, you know, Bessie. But I find that the cheap stuff works too, and the clamps are often overpriced, I think. But anyway, so that goes to my Ryobi multi-tool for sanding. Put that over there with it. These I had gotten a decent deal on, just some good old Speed Demon 6-piece spade set. It worked good, you know. Diablo has never really let me down. I know over here some people going, you know, you can get better than Diablo. I don't need better than Diablo. Diablo works fine. These could also use a cleaning, but these go with that. Help you keep boards aligned. You can put one down so that as it slides through, it keeps pressure on it, and then one in front of it as well. So as it's passing through, you have pressure here. Make sure you get all your alignments right when you're running a board through there. Maybe you're cutting a rabbet or, you know, like a dado to slide something into. So we'll keep those up there. Got some wood scraps. Go in there. I think that's about everything on here. Just needs to be dusted off pretty good. So we're gonna slide that there, and I'm gonna come over here. Just let that be the place to hold that. Now, here's one of those Harbor Freight squeeze clamps. And I do have the membership to Harbor Freight because I often go there to get little things that I need in a pinch, or when I don't need it to be the special name brand super solid thing. I think I got these with the membership for like $3.99 a pop. It's pretty solid. Now, yeah, you know, it slides forward, but it locks in when it's going back, and you can squeeze a decent amount of pressure. Can you get to this level? No. But will it do what I need it for? Absolutely. Now, I have this Irwin. This is the first squeeze clamp I ever bought. It's very dirty, dusty. And it works great. And it can hold more pressure than those. But like I said, those give you all the pressure you need as long as you make your cuts right, get your alignment right, and get that solid pressure on there when you're trying to do a glue up. So I think this one Irwin was like $29.99 or even, I don't think I wouldn't have paid 40 bucks for this. So pretty sure it's $29.99, and I thought it was before my town had a Harbor Freight. So I bought this from Lowe's, and it did good for what I needed it to. But it is a little overpriced. Irwin's good stuff, don't get me wrong, but I do think it's a little overpriced. So yeah, got some more wood scraps over here. We'll get to that eventually. All right, let's see what we can get to next. There's not really anything on this right now I have to address, but there is a crazy amount of wood chips and wood dust over here. I'll see if I can bring you guys to check it out. So yeah, we're gonna definitely need to get that cleaned up. So thanks for watching and checking out part 2. I'll see you guys for part 3.